The Steam Frame VR headset from Valve is finally real, and with it comes 7 important things that you need to know before you buy one. Now firstly, let's start by talking about the new hardware itself, because the Steam Frame, which was also known under the codename of Deckard beforehand, is actually the second VR headset from Valve, making this somewhat of a direct successor of their original Valve Index. But while that one required a full tethered PCVR setup, the Steam Frame instead is their first standalone headset that is more similar to something like the Meta Quest 3. But more on that later, because let's first take a closer look at the outside design. Now the Steam Frame has a sleek black outer shell with the front unit only weighing in at about 190 grams. And that makes it nearly on par with some of the lightest VR headsets out there like the Big Screen Beyond 2. Although, the bulk of the weight can be found in the head strap, which will also house the battery inside of it, making the total package in the end come in at about 435 grams instead. And talking about that head strap, it seems that Valve chose to go for a soft dual band design, which does luckily have a nice extra padded back cushion, but sadly is missing a top strap from the start. Although, Valve did directly announce that they will be releasing another version of the soft band that does have that top strap included for some extra bit of comfort. However, when talking about the design, we should also mention their new controllers, since these got quite a makeover too. And at first glance, they look slightly similar to your standard Touch Plus controllers, but with the main difference that all the 4 face buttons can now be found on the right hand side, while the left controller now has that new additional D-pad added to it, making it have the same layout than that of your standard gaming controllers. And what is also good to know is that these come with their so-called next-gen TMR thumbsticks, which should be quite a lot more resistant to stick drift in the long run. Now, while you might have noticed that the base controllers don't have knuckle strap designs just yet, Valve did announce that their so-called comfort kit that will come out should include these with them, as well as that previously mentioned top strap design. And in that way, you will finally be able again to move all of your fingers freely, just like that we had with the old Index controllers. But that gets us to the headset specs. Now maybe the most important one here is of course the screen, because the Steam Frame rocks a dual LCD panel at a resolution of 2160 by another 2160 pixels per eye, which in comparison is pretty much identical to that of Quest 3. Although, it does have a potential higher frame rate, with its normal range going up to 120 Hz, and its experimental feature boosting it all the way up to 144 Hz instead. And on top of that, the Steam Frame also has 2 new inward-facing cameras that can be used for things like eye tracking and foveated rendering. And that basically translates to your screen looking the sharpest depending on where you are looking at. Now another nice upgrade here is that at its core, it is using the Snapdragon Series 8 Gen 3 chip. And this one is a significant improvement over both the Gen 2 in the Quest 3, or even that of the XR2 Plus from something like the Samsung Galaxy XR. And an important thing to mention at the hardware specs as well is that the Steam Frame has pancake optics for its lenses that can give you that nice bigger sweet spot over the older Fresnel lenses. However, there are also sadly some downsides when it comes to the hardware. For example, the Steam Frame makes use of 4 monochrome out-facing cameras that are used for things like tracking your headset position and controllers. But that also means that mixed reality experiences are pretty much a no-go. And that can be quite a bummer for some people, especially since we've had full color pass-through cameras in most standalone headsets for a while now. And secondly, is that while many users were hoping for a larger FOV, in reality, this is sadly still set at the base 110 degrees of field of view. But there are also some cool smaller specs that many people don't know about. For example, the Steam Frame has a built-in infrared illuminator that makes it easier to track your headset position and controllers in the dark. But with all those awesome specs, we should also talk about maybe the most important part of all, and that is of course the games. Because this headset has its main focus on playing PCVR games and flat-screen titles, either wirelessly or directly running on the hardware itself. Now first and foremost, the Steam Frame comes with a special USB-C dongle included that is rocking Wi-Fi 6E, and that means that it will let you connect your headset to your PC directly without you having to worry to ever losing a proper connection to your computer. And that also goes for your flat-screen games in your Steam library, since these can now also be played within here thanks to the headset running their own SteamOS version on it. But by far the coolest thing is that it is possible to play those PCVR games natively on your Steam Frame itself, and that without any use of a buff gaming PC at all. So this would unlock things like playing Half-Life Alyx on a standalone headset for the very first time. Now, of course, do keep in mind that the graphics might have to be lowered quite significantly for this to run smoothly. Oh yeah, and you don't have to worry about these games taking up a lot of storage on your device, since the headset will come either in a base 256GB model or another 1TB version. But besides that, it also has the option to upgrade it with an SD card all the way up to a whopping 2TB instead, meaning that you can install basically as many VR games and flat screen titles that your heart desires. Although, one little downside here that Valve did mention is that at the moment they are not working on a big VR game to be released alongside the headset. And while many people were hoping for a sequel to something like Half-Life Alyx, it seems that this is not in the cards as of this moment. But moving on, we get to the new compatible hardware that got announced. Because next to the Steam frame, Valve also showed off a new Steam machine and controller that can work both perfectly together with their VR headset. For example, the Steam machine is basically your PC hardware that will be able to run all those AAA titles for you as smooth as butter. And the Steam controller can be used if you want a more casual gaming experience or to finally take down that big backlog of indie games in your library. But that gets us to the software. Now the Steam frame will be running Valve's own version of SteamOS, and that one will be kind of a similar experience to that of the Steam Deck. And since many users have experienced this OS system as one of the most streamlined versions that are out there, I am sure that this will also be the case in VR. But maybe most interestingly is that unlike Meta, this will now mean that you can install other OS systems on your headsets as well. Or you could just simply mod your device to absolute oblivion, which makes it highly likely that other VR headsets in the future might start using the SteamOS as their operating system, similar to how handheld PCs have taken it over too. But that gets us to the price and release. Now, depending on when you are watching this, the price and release might have already changed or be fully out there. But as of right now, Valve has made it pretty clear that the Steam frame will be launching in early 2026, and with the total cost being lower than that of the Index. So since this is most likely referring to the Index package, then this would mean that the headset should come in anywhere below the $1,000 mark. And I would also love to hear what you think would be a fair price for this headset, and if you're thinking of getting one. So let me know that in the comments below. But that gets us to the final conclusion. Now the Steam frame is one awesome new VR headset from Valve. It comes with a bunch of cool new hardware upgrades. And that goes from its advanced new chipset to its eye tracking feature. And above all, the ability to play Steam VR games natively on your device. However, while there are also some downsides, such as the black and white color pass-through, and it not having any big VR launch titles on release, I do think that this will definitely become one of the biggest contenders of the best VR headsets that are out there. But that is not all, because there are also some awesome free Steam VR games that you need to know about once this headset does finally arrive. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.